Hello everyone, welcome to RAAONLINE. I'm Dr. Abhinaya. I'm a consultant pediatrician. So welcome to Nelson-based pediatric teaching. In the chapter discussion of respiratory system, the next topic of discussion is on Croup. So I know we have seen children with Croup right from our MBBS, isn't it? But there is a lot of discussion around the management of Croup, so which we are going to clarify through this presentation. So I will take you through starting from the introduction, the etiology, the severity classification of Croup, and how are you going to investigate. Are really investigations like X-ray needed in Croup, and close differentials to Croup, and finally the management part. Okay, so this will be a very interesting presentation. So let's get started. Okay, so starting from the introduction, we know Croup is otherwise known as the laryngotracheobronchitis, LTB, and most commonly or most often, most of the cases are caused by viruses, and in children less than 2 years, it is one of the most common cause of stridor. So you get a child with fever and stridor, the first differential should be Croup. Okay, and so what is stridor basically? So stridor is a high pitched sound. Okay, it's a very harsh sound which occurs during inspiration. So you get a very harsh sound and which is heard evidently, and parents will tell that the child has noisy breathing, and in any child with fever, stridor, think of Croup. Whereas wheeze is going to be a very musical sound that is heard during auscultation, and that happens because of lower airway obstruction. So this is some introduction before we go to the topic per se. Okay, so Croup, basically again we talked about bronchiolitis in another one of our presentations. So in bronchiolitis I told you what happens. I took you through the stages of bronchiolitis, isn't it? So how what happens first? So how the fever, there is going to be a viral prodrome, and then comes the cough, and then comes the rest of the complications like apnea, cyanosis and respiratory distress, etc. So this happens like there is slowly the disease process will progress, isn't it? So similarly in Croup also, initially there is a fever, there is a cough. So the stridor happens pretty late, not in the early phases. So fever, there is a cough, and especially it has a barking quality. Okay, so whenever, usually when we sit in the pediatric OPDs and when we hear a child who has this barking cough from outside, it is very, very easier for us to identify that particular child. Many of us actually diagnose like that. So we call up that particular child and look for stridor. There is definitely a stridor, and we diagnose. So I think many of you would have heard this barking cough, very, very familiar with it, right? So initially fever, there is a cough which is of barking quality or a brassy quality, and there is a change in voice. The parents will tell that the voice is changed, it sounds very, very harsh. So there is a harsh or a very hoarse voice. So this is a early features. Stridor is a late feature. Cough and the voice change is the early, both are the early symptoms, whereas the stridor is a late symptom. So please understand that. And also don't think that without stridor I cannot diagnose Croup. Not like that. Fever, a barking cough, and a harsh or a hoarse voice, definitely you can diagnose Croup in the early stages. Okay, later stages there is a stridor. Stridor again, whenever the child is agitated, you get the stridor. In early stages, you will get stridor only when the child is agitated. But in the advanced or when the severe Croup happens, the stridor occurs at rest also. Okay, and then finally there is the respiratory distress. So this is just the anatomy of larynx, a simple picture. We all know the larynx is divided into the supraglottis, glottis, and the infraglottic area. I am not going to deal with the structures over here. So most of us know about the anatomy of the larynx. So this differential is because we have to talk about epiglottitis here. So this image is put up here. So close differential will be acute epiglottitis. Okay, remember that. We'll talk about how to differentiate epiglottitis and Croup in a moment.